All right, well, hey, everybody. As soon as we get a few folks joining us, welcome. This is our first ever live Google Hangout on Air Badge Chat K-12. And this came to us thanks to our friend Gideon, who is usually joining us all the way from New Zealand. Hopefully Gideon Williams will be on with us shortly now that we are live. And Gideon's been suggesting for a few weeks now, hey, you know, we were talking a lot about badging. Wouldn't it be awesome if we started to kind of actually share some of our work that we're doing so that instead of just dealing with questions and answers 140 characters at a time, we can kind of dive a little bit deeper into some of the work that's going on in the community. And myself and the other co-founders and moderators of the chat really like the idea. And so we're going to start regularly working that in every few weeks now of a chance to go kind of blend the Twitter with the Hangout and actually jump on in to the really big, major, awesome, important work that people have going on. So first things first, I'd like to welcome Nate Otto to the Hangout. Welcome, Nate.
Thank you, Noah.
And Nate probably deserves no, or needs no introduction. I shouldn't say deserve, but needs no introduction. Nate probably needs no introduction for a lot of the folks who've been with us for the beginning. We are now, I believe, in our 41st Badge Chat K-12 this week. And Nate at Autonomy has been with us pretty much since the beginning. Nate is one of the folks who's really driving the major work, not just in the thinking high level about what badges can be, should not be, but also behind the scenes on the technical side. Nate is one of the rock star developers who's actually developing a lot of the infrastructure that makes our passions come to life. And Nate was recently named as well the executive director of the Badge Alliance.
Great, thanks for the introduction. Maybe you're too kind. I indeed have been loving badges since Open Badges, particularly since I heard about them in late 2012. I represent both the Badge Alliance, where I'm the director. This is the global standards organization for the Open Badges specification. And I also represent Concentric Sky, which is a software development company in Eugene, Oregon, where I'm director of Open Badges. We are releasing this week our version 1.0 of the Badger badge issuing and earner badge management platform. So we're pretty excited about that. We should get the final code pushed sometime this evening and have it all ready for folks by tomorrow.
Oh, that's pretty exciting news. I'm sure you'll share that on the hashtag BadgeCat K-12 community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was really glad that you were available to join us, Nate, for kind of on short notice, because this is kind of a big week in the digital badge community, and you more so than others are going to be really dialed into what some of these announcements are that are coming down the pipeline. And so could you first share with us the big announcement with Badge Alliance, and then maybe, to the extent that you're allowed, hint at what we should be on the lookout for the rest of the week and where we can go to get the real skinny.
Well, sounds good. That's about what I can do. So this week is the Badge Alliance's official school year fall relaunch for the 2015-16 school year. And as part of that, we are rebuilding our websites to be redeployed with lots of cool new features. One of those new features is the world's first job application process by Open Badges Learning Pathway. We're going to be posting 3 different job announcements this week at the Badge Alliance. These are for contractors who will help us finish out the 2015 calendar year, one for a social media manager, one for a technical writer, and for a junior developer. And the Badge Alliance, one of our main focuses this year is advancing the Open Badges specification to the 2.0 version, which we're projecting for a June release. And then we are also working on building a mechanism for us to publish information about how badges fit together. And we're calling that process learning pathways. So we have a draft specification coming out to be announced with these job applications this week. And we will be accepting job applications in the format of learning pathways that show individuals' badges. And we'll be publishing them in the format of job descriptions that use the Learning Pathways spec. So keep a watch out for those announcements on badgealliance.org and on the Badge Alliance Twitter account the Open Badges hashtag, and then of course the Badge Chat K12 hashtag. And so other things to pay attention to this week are there's a big secret badge-related event happening tomorrow. So watch the Open Badges and Badge Alliance Twitter accounts for announcements on the big event tomorrow, big secret event. And then on Wednesday, we have many more interesting announcements coming on our regular Open Badges community, what we call our community call, which runs at noon Eastern time on Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. We announce it on our Twitter, hashtag Open Badges, and have members of our community come in to check in with one another and tell everyone what they're working on. This week is that's the official Badges kickoff event for 2015-2016, so I'm pretty excited to make some additional announcements there. And sorry to say I can't share all the details now because we've got to maintain a little bit of a sense of surprise for later in the week. Any questions on what I got so far?
Yeah, actually I do, but before I get there, I just want to let everybody know who's watching that we still have room in this Hangout. I tweeted out a link if anybody wants to get in. I see Dan's with us, as well as you should be able on the Google Plus page to put in questions to Nate, and I will also be refreshing my hashtag BadgeChatK12 on Twitter. If anybody is having trouble on the Hangout getting their questions to us, should be able to ask them there as well. Nate, I saw a press release this morning that went out on the Open Badges hashtag with another announcement with Badge Alliance around competency-based education. Can you give us a little insight into what's going on there?
Today also there is it's the Lumina Foundation's event. I believe this is what you're referring to. Lumina Foundation launched a Connect Credentials Summit today. So if you go to connectingcredentials.org, this is not an Open Badges specific campaign, but it's a push toward standardizing certain types of credential, the actual learning claims that you're making with a badge, so that portability and understandability across contexts is eased. And so at the Badge Alliance, we feel that this thinking is very important and very interesting for the future of badges, and we will make sure that the Open Badges specification can support the recommendations that come out of that Connecting Credentials group.
Super cool. And are you able to just expand on both the kind of portability that you brought up, and actually I'll stop there, and I don't know if nobody's asking questions yet or if my Q&A tab isn't working, so if you are trying to ask questions but we're not seeing them, feel free to tweet them out on hashtag BadgeChatK12, and we'll be sure that we get Nate to answer it for you.
Cool. So of course, if you check out what the Lumina Foundation is working on at connectingcredentials.org, you'll see that they are trying to come up with recommendations, or what they call guiding principles, for building sort of a shared vision about what is needed in the next wave of credentials. And of course, the Open Badges technology is a format to package many different types of educational credentials, as well as all sorts of other learning claims. But the key use cases are all around educational credentials. And so this Lumina Foundation work, they're bringing together a bunch of stakeholders to talk about what are the different ways that we should understand credentials in the 21st century. What are the different mechanisms and information we have available to us to determine whether a particular credential is of high quality, or whether it meets the employer's needs, and how understand, of course, how credentials are interconnected with one another, how learners can view different pathways available to them to increase their economic mobility and career opportunities. And these are, a lot of the same questions that the Open Badges community through the Badge Alliance has been considering with regard to our particular shared technology. We think that these goals can be served through use of a shared standard like Open Badges. But of course, the guiding principles are not specific to one type of credentialing technology. They're really more about how you decide what learning claims to make with your badges, and how institutions can build relationships with one another to understand and validate the credentials being produced in other contexts.
And one last question on those lines, is there any kind of exciting just thought work happening around how that might bring kind of a degree of equivalence into the badges by going off of competencies, that a badge that might be able to carry the same name, same criteria across multiple institutions?
Mm-hmm. So what the Lumina Foundation has published under their guiding principles is that systems should be, among one of their principles, it should be based on transparency and trust. And open badges enable those capabilities quite well. You can tell who has issued the badge. You can tell, you can verify that it was issued to the earner you expect it to be issued to, and you can look at the name and the description and the image. But besides the metadata that's sort of locked into the badge, the Badge Alliance would like to this year promote the use of alignment as a sort of first-order mechanism of determining how badges map to values and components of credential frameworks in the real world. How a particular badge that is defined by a certain organization, issued by, assessed and issued by that organization to an individual, how the claims embedded in that badge actually correspond to skills and competencies and experiences that an employer, for example, wants to know about. So what we're doing in the Badge Alliance is we're going to be releasing tools around building alignments with badges and also around endorsement of badges, so that third parties who discover a particular badge and they know that it corresponds well to a competency framework or any one of these values in the real world, whether they be 21st century skills or a particular industry's competency map. We want to know how those badges map to those items, and we can allow third-party accreditors and other trusted organizations to issue endorsements saying, this badge I found here corresponds to this point on my learning pathway. And we have the tools under development in the badges community to build those connections and display them to the user, so that we can really enable the capability that the Lumina Foundation is asking for, of students being able to say, here I am on my learning pathway, and I want to work toward a certain career. What are my options for getting the right credentials that are understood by industry in that career and valued by the people who would be likely to employ me?
And that is just so awesome. And again, for folks who might be just joining us, you can use the Q&A tab to submit your questions here on the Hangout. If that's not working for you, tweet them out on #BadgeChatK12, and we will make sure to get those asked. And Nate, just something you get me really excited when you talk about alignment, trust. I think these are just really important issues, and I think one of the ones that a lot of people are also getting really excited about is when folks like you were talking about pathways, that there's just a lot of neat stuff we're going to be able to do for young people as well as adults.
Yeah, and of course, we're trying to prototype the earliest phase of this. Like I mentioned, we'll be publishing, starting tomorrow, these 3 job descriptions on the badgealliance.org, and they will be published as these learning pathway documents, which is essentially an employer saying, here's the qualifications that I would like to see in an applicant for the job, and then we can, render those into HTML so that they're human readable, and individual applicants can say, hey, this badge I have aligns to this requirement, this badge I have aligns to this requirement, I did something that wasn't badged that was some experience that aligns to this one, and just can sort of fill out that learning pathway as a template to say why they're qualified for the job. So that's just one example of how a shared specification around this kind of document can be useful to the badges community. And we prototyped and shared a learning pathway there's several different types of learning pathway we want to prototype, but we've released one already that is a badge issuer saying, here's the badge that is available for the course, and then a badge earner who has gone through a particular course saying, here's the badges I earned in this course, along with where they lined up with on that issuer's pathway. Those 2 pathway options, issuer published and badge earner published, are 2 of them. This week we're going to really start seeing that prototype of what we call a consumer published pathway looks like and what the capabilities are to deal with it.
That just sounds super exciting, and if at least to this nerdy guy it does. And I really look forward to seeing the announcements tomorrow. Again, everybody, check the #OpenBadges, check the Badge Alliance Twitter feed, and we'll definitely be retweeting all that on the hashtag BadgeChatK12 community as well. Nate, thank you so much for joining us and sharing these quick updates. And even though there was a lot of stuff you couldn't share, I guess, for teasing it to us and just taking the time out of your afternoon.
Thank you. Yeah, doing my best. And I have another 15 minutes. I'll stick around in the hashtag and watch what's going on.
Awesome.
But yeah, so anyone who has any particular questions for me, I am Autonomy, OTTONOMY, on Twitter, and you can find me there.
Awesome, Nate. Hey, thank you so much. And feel free to stay in the Hangout if you just want to mute yourself as well and cut in any time that I say something that needs to be corrected or interrupted. For the folks who are watching from the Google Plus page, would somebody do me a favor and just submit a random question just on the Q&A tab so I can see if it's working at all? And if that's not working, again, we'll be refreshing the hashtag BadgeChatK12 on Twitter so you can get your questions to us that way. So again, Gideon Williams, our friend in New Zealand, was the one who really suggested that we throw out a Hangout to do more of just a share fair, a kind of show and tell of some of the actual badge work that we're doing. And so while I reached out to a few people to share their work, I also this week thought that as one of the folks who's doing a lot of the talking in this space week after week, that I should go ahead and share some of the work that we're doing in Aurora Public Schools. And so I'm going to switch over to a screen share here, and I am going to pull up a graphic of Aurora Public Schools badge system. We have termed it, or not termed it, but our sort of catchphrase is recognizing assets, opening doors. And so kind of all of our messaging around this is around recognizing what students bring to the table, that they have these assets that all too often, even though they're happening in the classroom, they are invisible on their transcripts, that whether they get an A or a B- or a C+ in whatever class it is, that these skills are invisible on the transcript and very difficult to verify on a resume. And so in Aurora Public Schools, we're really looking at digital badges as a way to notice and name skills and achievements when they happen, and thanks to the evidence that we attach to these as open badges, make it verifiable to parents, other teachers, colleges, and even employers. Anyone in the ecosystem has the ability to really validate for themselves and verify that the student deserves the digital badges that were earned. And by the way, Nate or Dan, since I will be able to hear you, if anybody does post a question on there, since I'm doing a screen share right now, I'm not going to see it. Feel free to unmute yourself and cut in and let me know about the question, and I'll continue to check on Twitter.
You know,
so,
there was one just test question that came in that just says, from Rich Dixon, says, "Hi Noah, this is just a test queue." So it is working. At least there's that.
Awesome, Rich Dixon, thank you so much for giving us that peace of mind that's working. And at any point, just please do pop in your questions, and Nate and Dan are going to, and maybe Dan, after Nate goes, you can take over of co-moderating with me and making sure I know that the questions come in so that I stop and get to those. So looking at these digital badges that you see here for Aurora Public Schools, as you can see, there's sort of two levels or tiers of badges. We have micro badges, and we have macro badges. In the case of the micro badges, we call these journey badges. And in the case of the macro badges, we call them summit badges. So a student goes on a journey with their journey badges or micro badges, and once they've earned all of the requisite journey badges, that unlocks the summit badge or the macro badge. And before I dive too much into process, I just want to back up a little bit and share this kind of the design decisions around going with these 5 21st century skills for the summit badges. And really what that's about is in the state of Colorado, we have 5 21st century skills that are named in the state standards across all content areas. So myself as a Spanish teacher, my colleagues who are teaching science, PE, 3rd grade, kindergarten, preschool, whatever content area and age group you get the privilege to share with students, these 5 21st century skills are named in the Colorado Academic Standards. So the positive assumption is that all of our teachers are doing awesome standards-based instruction, therefore they are probably hitting these skills in their standards-based instruction. It's just not being noticed and named, and most importantly, credentialed for their learners. And so this is a way for us to get at that. I know in the some other states and the Common Core standards, there's a handful of additional skills. We went with the Colorado academic standards, and then with our Journey badges, those micro badges, that's where we had a chance to really dive in at an even more granular level and say, okay, in the example of critical thinking, what does that really look like so it's not a one-off? And using the Colorado standards, the Common Core standards, the ISTE-NET standards, and really just anything that we could find that we thought would be helpful to just our learning in this space, we identified kind of 4, and in the case of information literacy, 5 more granular skills that feed into that higher level 21st century skills. So in the case of critical thinking, we said, you know, analysis, exploration, investigation, organization is really how we're going to see students showing that they're critical thinkers. Do I have any questions there that I need to take a pause and answer?
Yeah, so Rich Dixon does ask, can you tell us how you got your admin, teachers, and parents on board and buying into the badge system?
That is such a great question. So especially for any folks who are thinking about trying to take this work on at scale, right? I mean, a lot of our teachers who are joining us every week on Badge Chat K-12, and just the thousands of teachers across the United States and in North and South America and Europe and New Zealand, Australia, you know, that they're issuing badges that don't necessarily mean anything outside of their own classroom. So I'm giving out a, you know, Senor G. Ola badge in my Spanish class in room 311, but that badge doesn't necessarily mean anything in 310 or 312. And so when we look at taking this on its scale, going to some of that kind of portability and equivalence that Nate was talking about earlier, we've just kind of got really lucky in Aurora Public Schools and having a few things going for us. Possibly the biggest one is that this initiative was really born out of the superintendent's own office. That the superintendent has a 2020 strategic plan that sort of has 3 major strategies. The first one is that all students will have an academic plan. The second is that all students will have the skills needed to succeed to be college and career ready, and that all students will have credentials in order to communicate to colleges and employers that they have those skills. And so digital badges were really born out of speaking to those 3 parts of the strategic plan, saying that, well, with digital badges, that is one way that students can have credentials to show that they have these skills, and also by the badges they have, the skills they've proven that they possess, as well as the ways in which they earn those skills, they're going to be able to use that to circle back to their individual academic plan. And that's one place where I know our district is really excited about Nate's work that he shared with the Pathways alignment. And so having it come out of the superintendent's office has been really big. Another place that's really helped us, going back to the original question of just engaging stakeholders, is that this has to date not been a mandate in the school district. This has been 100% opt-in. And so we first started out piloting in last year, finding teachers who were interested, and then we approached principals and said, hey, principals, are you okay with this going on in your school? And you know, so who are some good teachers to be early adopters and jump in the sandbox and bloody up their knees and elbows with us, you know, and really just learn about this process. And so that's been really helpful, that this was not a top-down initiative where we force teachers into compliance mode, but rather really a kind of open invitation for anybody who says this looks like something that might be best for kids, and so I'm going to dive in and start playing in the sandbox and see how it goes. As far as engaging students, you know, it's been a lot of focus groups and just going in and sharing what the system looks like, examples of how we see students earning badges, and then sharing the last piece of this puzzle that I haven't shared yet is with the endorsed badges, where we have local businesses that have endorsed our Summit badges. And so we have, for example, a company where they make inventions for a living. Boulder Engineering Studio has endorsed their own invention badge, and so students who earn the Boulder engineering studio invention badge are going to have an opportunity opened up to them where they can actually go to this business and do a half-day job shadow on the engineering floor with people who make inventions for a living. And so sharing that with students has been really helpful. We're just really getting started with our parent engagements, so to be honest, I don't necessarily have a good answer for you there yet, but we're definitely trying to figure out just what are the best and smartest ways to go about things like informed consent, things like making sure parents are aware that this is happening, the opportunities it's bringing forward to their students, and just what it means. What kind of conversations might this facilitate between parents and teachers, parents and counselors, and most importantly, parents and their own students. Were there any other questions?
Not yet, but no, I just want to say this is a really great example of the potential of learning pathways, and really just showing how a shared value system can exist within a school community. You know, these are the values that that community is supporting, and by participating in the badge system, you reinforce the fact that there is, you know, connected learning happening across all the different classes that a student participates in.
100%, and that was a very conscientious decision on our part that especially to that last point you made, Nate, about across the entire learning system, that you know, students are going to shine where they're going to shine, and that we don't necessarily get to decide where that is. And so by going with these 21st century skills that are across all content areas, you know, it really opens up for students who shine in PE. You know, even information literacy is a part of the PE, the physical education standards, and so students are going to have access to show that they shine there and be credentialed for it. And so it really helped us avoid also a lot of just those conversations if we were to go into content level badges of math and social studies and science badges, you know, of what should we be badging, what should we not be badging. By going more content agnostic for something that's more kind of holistic for the whole child, we thought it was going to really increase equity and access for all students, while really speaking to, you know, what is going to help them get ahead in life. That, you know, when we look at the 21st Century Skills Commission report, when we look at here in Colorado, we have this Colorado Career Cluster that was informed by industry, and you know, we don't hear employers saying, I really need students who can answer a multiple choice question and I already have the right answer. You know, that if they have the right answer, they don't need anybody to look it up. And so, you know, they're really looking for employees with skills, and this is a way for us to help our students get a leg up on the competition when they're applying for jobs, because they can communicate to an employer, hey, you don't have to find out too late that I don't have the skills you need. I can communicate to you ahead of time that I definitely have these 21 skills that, you know, your industry has communicated to education are important.
Cool. Well, thank you for inviting me on the call. I'm going to have to drop off here, but good luck with the rest of the hangout, and I'm looking forward to seeing more news about this badging system particularly.
Thank you so much, Nate, and they will definitely all be looking forward to hearing the big announcements from Badge Alliance and some of the rest of the community tomorrow. For anybody who's joining late, Nate is the executive director of the Badge Alliance, and he was sharing with us a couple big announcements that they released today, as well as that they have in the pipeline. And within the digital badge community, there's going to be some pretty big news coming out tomorrow and throughout this week. Check hashtag open badges to get your finger on that pulse.
Cool, sounds good. And I'll be back in the Twitter chat next Monday for anyone who wants to follow up with me then and ask any more questions about the open badges world. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Nate. So, and Dan, if you're still with us, I'd super mega mooey appreciate it if you'd let me know if anybody else has any questions on the Q&A tab.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. I'm still trying to figure out how to operate the Q&A tab, so I'll do my best to help, but I'm not sure I'll find it.
That's okay. And for anybody else who is watching us live and asking questions, if I'm not hearing or getting to your question in a timely manner, feel free to tweet it out with hashtag BadgeChatK12. And we will make sure to pause what we're doing and answer it right away. So diving back into the digital badges in Aurora Public Schools, you saw in that graphic that we have a Summit badge and 4 Journey badges. For students to reach the Summit badge, they have to earn each of the 4 Journey badges 3 times each. So what we've said is it's never a one-off. Any student who's showing awareness in order to get their collaboration summit badge is showing awareness at least three different times with evidence attached to the badge. And so the next question a lot of folks ask is, okay, so what is the criteria for hitting these Journey badges? And so what our team did is we really just came up with a one-sentence definition. This is the extent to which teachers are really being, top-down direction from Aurora Public Schools, is that each one of these Journey badges has a one-sentence definition of what that means. And so in the case of investigation, in order to earn their critical thinking badge, students identify and define authentic problems and significant questions for investigation. The task at that point is then for the teacher to look at her curriculum, look at what she has coming up in the instructional sequence and say, where are my students going to have opportunities to show this and what's that going to look like? And so they really, at the teacher level, are really dictating what the criteria is in order to earn that investigation badge, as well as what evidence the students are going to be attaching to that badge in order to either submit for it or to have the teacher issue it on the teacher side. And I'll leave those up there for a quick moment so people can kind of get a sense of what those questions look like.
Hey, Noah, I see Sarah is asking to be invited. I don't know how to do that.
Oh, okay. We can do that for you, Sarah. Just give us one more moment. So with our, it shows how good I am at multitasking, huh? With our system, you'll see that there are different colors to the badges. And so we have preschool through second grade, third through fifth grade, sixth through eighth grade, and then we have 9th through 12th grade. And so that digital badge system really exists in 4 different iterations. Those 5 summit badges and 21 Journey badges are replicated 4 different times: preschool through second, third through fifth, sixth through eighth, and then at the and 9 through 12. And what changes is not the badge definition, but the criteria. So the one sentence definition for each badge stays the same, whether you're 6 years old or 16 years old. It's the actual the actual criteria and that students are expected to meet that really changes from grade level to grade level. And Sarah, I just sent you a link to get into the Hangout with us. Thank you, Dan, for letting me know that was that somebody had given us a question there. And any other questions? It does not look like we've had any other questions just yet. I'm seeing that Mike Vigilant down in, I think he's in Atlanta. He wonders if any of his teachers would be interested in evening online PD. That's always a good question, Mike. You know what? Going back to, I think it was Rich who asked the question about just how are we helping teachers, how are we supporting teachers? And professional development's a huge one. You know, in our pilot in the spring in Aurora Public Schools, one of our biggest lessons learned was that teachers don't have time. You know, when we asked teachers to join us for focus groups and share us just what was awesome, what wasn't awesome, where are the real areas for improvement, the biggest thing that we got back was, you know, I love this work. I really think it's what's best for kids, and I don't have time right now, you know, and so help us with that. And so while we can't invent new time, you know, it's tough for us to go into schools and you know, with especially an initiative that does not have a mandate, and to you know, insist that principals take something else off teachers' plates, although that would be really awesome if they would. What we can do is be, you know, really creative and responsive to teachers and meeting their needs on the professional development to help them make it happen. And so, Mike, the reason I bring this up is because one of the ways that we're doing that is we're offering a bi-weekly hangout on air for teachers. So instead of telling them, hey, after the school day ends, you need to get in your car and rush across town to the central administration building to attend professional development that may or may not meet your needs, you can just do it from your classroom after school, you know, with some music on in the background, or at home in your boxer shorts, whatever, you know, wherever it's convenient for you. You're going to be able to tune in, and, you know, if you realize it's not meeting your needs, you'll be able to leave without, you know, offending anybody. And the district was really, in my mind, super awesome in that they went ahead and listed the Hangout in the professional development catalog, so teachers actually have an opportunity to register for it in the online system so they can get continuing education credit hours for the PD that they're doing from the comfort of their own home. And because it's a Hangout on air, it's recorded so they can watch it at their leisure and then just let us know they did and still get that continuing ed hours. So that's one really awesome piece, I think. You know, we're also doing the centrally located professional development at the admin building where teachers can come and collaborate, and the sort of reason for that was, you know, last year we didn't do that because we said we don't want to have meetings on teachers' plates, and then the feedback was, hey, as much as I don't need one more meeting, it was really helpful the few times that I did get together with folks from other schools to hear how they're doing it. You know, this is conceptually so abstract, and what we're doing is, you know, there's no roadmap for this right now. And so for us to be able to sit down with other teachers in other content areas and other age groups from other schools is just really helpful in helping us get our own minds wrapped around ways that we could be doing this in our classrooms. So in addition to the Hangouts, some face-to-face trains, and then, you know, to the extent that the team has bandwidth, just making sure that we're available to get into schools, whether that's meeting with a teacher one-on-one during their planning time, getting there, you know, at 6, 7 in the morning to meet with a group of teachers before school or at lunch or after school, and just making sure that while we can't create time out of thin air for teachers, that we're doing the best we can to honor the time that they have in the most powerful ways possible. And hey, Sarah, thanks so much for joining us. And before I dive back into kind of a little bit more of the ecosystem around the Aurora Public Schools badges, are there any questions that folks have, either on the hashtag or folks who are watching live on the Hangout who want to get some questions in about this badging system? All right, well, we will continue to keep an eye out. And Rich, thanks again for proving that the Q&A tab does work for us. I really appreciate that. I thought beyond the digital badge system itself that I could share a little bit more documentation without getting too into the weeds. And so again, this is our badge system that we were showing with the 5 summit badges and the 21 journey badges that feed into that. And so one of the early pieces of feedback that we got from teachers was, hey, you know, really need to be able to figure out how to plan for my students' badge earning. And so we came up with these sample evidence charts where we gave all the teachers a quick link inside the Google Doc directly to the badge that they might be wanting to issue. And then we gave them kind of some bullet points of sample evidences of, hey, this is what this might look like in your classroom. So again, or maybe not again if you're just joining us, the district defines innovation as applies existing knowledge to generate new ideas, products, or processes. And so the teacher then determines what that looks like, and you know, we were really clear that, you know, here's some sample evidence for meeting this, you know, that includes but is not limited to. So this was just one attempt to make it a little less nebulous, to not just give teachers a completely blank canvas and say figure it out, but to give them a couple bullet points of ideas of what it could look like. And now what we're doing that we have teachers going in and issuing badges is, you know, when they do that, we're really studying what they do and picking out the best examples and bring them to this district level document that all the teachers have access to say, hey, here's a teacher who in 7th grade math, this is how her students, you know, met the criteria of applies existing knowledge to generate new ideas, products, or processes, and the evidence that they're going to attach to their badge that will be baked into the badge is a photograph of the student-created chart. And with the system we're using, that photograph can be uploaded as an attachment. It can be a link, really up to the student and teacher.
Hey, Noah, we have a question from Mike. He asked if you created the rubrics yourself or who did?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. So yeah, Aurora Public Schools, you know, that one of the analogies that we kind of laughingly push out sometimes is that it's a lot like old school Zelda, in that, you know, you start out and you only have the map to one room because that's the room you've been in, and you know throughout the game that there's a much bigger map, but until you go into the room, the map doesn't populate. And so with a lot of this work, we're just realizing that there's not a map out there for us. We're kind of the district that's going out there and making a map for other school districts and hoping that it's good enough a map that folks like you in Atlanta are going to be able to take it and run with it and make it even better for students. And so, we've intentionally avoided using the word rubric. We call it an evidence guide. And so we're really, looking to teachers as the experts in their classrooms to say, what you do and teach in 7th grade math, where does applies existing knowledge to generate new ideas, products, and processes show up in your 7th grade math classroom? And, then work with them to say, where's what would be the criteria for that for you? And how would a student share the evidence so that, as we get more and better examples, we'll have. And right now, you're going to see we don't have a ton of examples yet. We have a handful of examples for each badge, and we probably have some badges where we don't even have examples yet, but we're trying to go across content areas. So for our creation badge, our examples right now are for 8th grade PE, 7th grade music, and 6th through 8th grade art. And the hope is that for a teacher who's not yet ready to really figure this out on her own for what this looks like, if she teaches art at 6 through 8, she's going to be able to see that one of her colleagues has already come up with the criteria for earning one of their creation badges, and she's going to be able to take this and basically press play, and just push it out to her students without having to do too much really additional work to wrap her head around it. And as we get more and more examples from teachers, we're going to have more and more opportunities to where a teacher really could just press play, if you will, and hopefully at the same time we're going to have lots of innovative educators who say, I as much as I love these examples, these are really for me just great to help me get spark plugs for ideas of what this can look like in my own classroom. But myself as an innovative educator, I'm going to be kind of charting my own course in this way, and I'll just be a good guy and share my evidences with everybody else so this evidence chart continues to grow over time. And again, I can't emphasize enough that just teacher input and teacher feedback has been such a driving force in all of this work. That this evidence guide used to look completely different, and so it's listening to our users, our teachers, on every level. Some of this is just like, hey, this would have looked better if you would have laid it out, rotating at 90 degrees. It's like, done, let's do that, and we, initially we thought we'll just give them these bullet points, but we don't want to give them too much because it'll fence in their creativity. And then, the feedback was, hey, it's not about fencing my creativity. It's about, this is just too nebulous. I need some more concrete examples. And so that's where we went in and started populating with the examples from different teachers. And so that's just one of our big lessons that we've learned along the way is not just valuing teacher time, but one of the ways that we can do that is by valuing teacher input and making sure that we're really agile and quick to really take teacher feedback and implement it every way that we can along the way. And I guess along those lines, another thing to add before I check back in on any questions is, I would highly recommend if you're doing this work at any sort of scale to really avoid over planning. A podcast I listen to from IDEO Futures, they end every episode by saying, "Don't get ready, get started." If you spend too much time getting ready, and doing your own Google Documents, I can tell you that Aurora Public Schools, our Google Drive, at this point has hundreds and hundreds of documents for footprinting this work. And, in retrospect, some of those documents we really put too much time into. We should have just, done it quick and dirty and gotten it out into the wild because, we have some stuff that we spent a lot of time on and then found out once we got people using it that it wasn't right for students and teachers. And so, we had to quickly pivot from it even though we'd spent a bunch of time developing it. So, while we took the time to drop these graphics into this evidence guide, we didn't do that the first time around because we didn't know if we were going to have to change this document. And so it was only after we had this out in the wild and it was working really well that we decided to spruce it up a little bit. So, if you're doing this at scale, it's going to take a whole team of people, and even then they're going to be really taxed for resources as far as time goes. And so you have to be really kind of picky and choosy for when you say good enough is okay right now as opposed to everything has to be perfect. And any other questions coming in. Who wrote all the oh, there we go. The rubrics question we just answered. I know we're down. We don't need to fill up the whole hour just for the sake of filling up the whole hour. I'll stop at any point if anybody tosses out any other questions, but I do want to talk about the endorser piece with our folks who are showing value for the badges. But first, let's go to Sarah. You have a question.
Oh, it was just a comment, but no, I'm intrigued. So just yeah, I'm just following along with what you're saying. So I'll type it into the chat.
No, go ahead and say it with us, Sarah.
Yeah, I don't want to distract from the conversation. Like, this is some great stuff that's going on right now. I was just gonna talk a little bit about stuff like when you were done, because you were saying that you don't want to fill up the whole hour. But you know, just something that would tack on when you're done, because I don't want to derail where the conversation's going.
Okay, we'll come back to you in about 180 seconds then.
Awesome.
The last part is that, you know, we've had a couple times on Badge Chat K-12, we've had some dialogues that were pretty intense. Some of our most polarizing conversations are around, you know, rewards and extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. And just at Aurora Public Schools and in our work, we came to a point very early on where we said, you know, we really need to make a decision on this. You know, if a student raises their hand and says, "Miss, why should I care about your badges?" You know, what is the teacher's response to that? And while we definitely want the teacher's response to be, you know, somewhere to feel comfortable saying, you know, because you're an awesome learner and you should be intrinsically motivated to learn because this is really great for your future, you know, we definitely want to support that. And at the same time, there's some students who we don't know if that's necessarily going to be good enough of an answer. And at the same time, if we're going out and telling our students, hey, you know, employers really value these skills that we're talking about here, you know, then we should be able to prove that to them by showing them employers who value their skills. And so what we've really been doing is, you know, even before we've had any students earn any of these badges, we were really intentional to go out and find industry partners, you know, everybody from, you know, we have a theater company, we have, I mentioned Boulder Engineering Studios, we have a sort of office park redevelopment space. It's going to have 90 commercial tenants, everybody from a yoga studio to a fresh food market to multiple bars and restaurants, a coffee shop, a children's museum, office space. They're going to have 90 tenants, and they're endorsing our badges. And you know, when they endorse a badge, they're not just telling the kids, hey, we put our logo on this badge to let you know that we really value information literacy or critical thinking. You know, they're also then providing what we refer to as a value proposition, and what that looks like in K-12 is an opportunity. That they're saying, hey, I value your critical thinking so much here at my business that I'm going to open up an opportunity for you. And so at the high school level, a lot of our opportunities look like we're going to make one internship available per semester, and in order to apply for that internship, you have to have our branded critical thinking badge. And if you have that, you are guaranteed an interview for the internship. We're also having people do job shadows. So if you earn our badge, you get the ability to come into our place of work and do a half-day job shadow and learn about what we do for a living. We have a UX, a user experience, user interface shop called Universal Mind that said, hey, any student who gets our information literacy badge, and if they've done a website, we will come and meet up with them at their school and teach them what we do by doing a UX UI audit on their website, which that's just one of my favorite value propositions so far. And so, you know, when it really gets to get at that question when a student raises their hand and says, why should I care about your badge, miss? You know, that we have a really awesome answer, and it's not because if you get this badge, you get candy, or because you get this badge, you get extra recess time, or you get to watch a movie in class instead of learn. It is because you've shown these skills, we have somebody who's going to recognize that that skill is valuable by providing you with an amazing opportunity that hopefully exposes you to a career and helps you, you know, plan and manage just that individualized learning plan and really goal set for your own future. And so far, you know, it gets students excited, it gets teachers excited, and frankly, it gets industry excited. They sit there and say, you know, this is good for us because we're doing right for the world. We believe in doing, you know, education. This is an awesome way for us to be involved, and it doesn't cost us much time or energy. We, you know, potentially could get some easy, free PR out of this, you know, selfishly. And the other thing that they say selfishly is, you know, that at Boulder Engineering Studio, we were on a panel with her earlier this week at Denver Startup Week, and she said, you know, engineers aren't easy to find in 2015. And if we can get a hold of the talent pipeline when they're 16 years old, and what they know about engineering, when they decide they want to be an engineer who makes inventions for a living, is at that age when they're on a job shot at our shop. Then when they graduate a few years later from Colorado School of Mines, you know, and everybody's fighting for them, you know, we're already going to be first on their radar. And so, you know, selfishly for the employer, it's about getting an early finger on the pulse of a diverse and talent pipeline. And so, you know, I think we're down to about 9 minutes left. I know we have Sarah and Dan with us, and it looks like 4 people watching live. Would love to just take any questions that folks have about this work that we're doing.
Hey Noah, this is Dan. Quick follow-up question on what you were just discussing. I think it's so cool how the employers are valuing the badges, and it gives it like a real world significance to the students. Does that apply to every badge, in that you wouldn't issue a badge unless there's some real world tangible reward down the line? Or if not, you know, what's the motivation for this?
That is a great question. So the opportunity, the endorsed badge opportunity, only comes at the summit badge level. So there's 5 higher level badges that I showed that you have to get there in order to get the endorsed opportunity. So if you earn one of your journey badges, your micro level badges, if you earn that one badge one time, you know, you just have the badge in the badge system. Your teacher could print it out as a certificate. Some teachers are definitely doing physical badges in the form of stickers as well. We developed a teacher support resource where we made the badge system as a PDF as well as a flip chart, so they can sort of visually show, especially our younger students, who has which badges. But yeah, the endorsed opportunity only comes with the summit badge, and then it's still on the student to decide. They opt into that opportunity. So maybe as a student, I have earned the Aurora Fox Theater collaboration badge, but I don't necessarily have to go and take advantage of their opportunity. Their opportunity is that they will give any student who gets their badge a mock interview. And they will do their best to scare you, make you cry, and if at the end of it you like them and they still like you, then they are going to offer you an internship. But that's still an opt-in. So a student could earn that badge and say, you know, I just really want to have the branded badge to be able to show mom and dad in colleges and other employers, but I'm not really interested in taking advantage of that opportunity myself.
Cool, thank you.
Absolutely. And Sarah, you had a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I just love everything that y'all are doing in your school district. I had a couple of show and tells myself, but they don't really they come nowhere near to what you just laid out. But just a really quick hitter, just a couple of examples of ways that classroom teachers might use badges. I'm in the very bare bones of beginning with mine for this school year, but I just wanted to just do a quick screen share. So I'll show like 2 examples really quickly.
Please.
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So these are the badges that I've used so far, and I've used the Credly platform, and they've been very easy to kind of develop. And there's different things here, like for example, a group that worked quickly and with accuracy, they got the quick study badge, and we fly high. It's like if a group worked together and got all the points on an assignment, or figured it out, because we're doing something for Figure It Out Friday. So whichever students contributed to the class winning Figure It Out Friday, they got this badge, and so on and so on. So that's just an example of what we've been doing in my class. And I'll show one more example of what it might look like in professional learning. Again, nowhere near as robust as what you all are doing. Let me see. Okay. So for this one here, this is an example of ones that are done for professional learning. So getting googly, this is one that whipped up during a Google session, just showing people how to do different things. Gamifiers for like a gamification session, everyone who attended got this, and it was very easy to kind of get their information using a Google form and sending it out. So just a couple of ideas I wanted to throw out there, but nothing much. Just a couple of different things that we've tried out.
Oh, I wouldn't belittle your efforts at all there, Sarah. That stuff is awesome. Like we were saying, that we are all just figuring this out. I don't think there's anybody out there who thinks they're not at the tip of the iceberg. If they think they're any deeper than that, they're deluding themselves. And I think that the work you and Shelley have been able to share out that you've done, and some of our other moderators who've been willing to put their work out there is awesome. And to anybody in our Badge Chat K-12 community who's been willing to put their work out there, thank you so much. Again, this was born out of our friend Gideon Williams out in a whole other hemisphere saying, we're talking a lot about badges. It would be nice to do a show and tell and actually see some of what different folks are doing. And so, we're going to start doing this now at least once a month, where instead of just being on Twitter having our talk, we're going to recruit some of the folks from the community to hop on the Hangout and screen share and actually put some of their work out into there to the wild. And so just thanks for being vulnerable and willing to share out with us, Sarah. I think that's just really, really awesome what you're doing. And I know that you've shared that teachers are enjoying earning your badges.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm enjoying hearing everything that y'all are doing too, giving me some ideas to take back with me. Oh, and one more quick caveat. If y'all are in a GAF walled garden, then just be aware that if you do use like Credly or something, when you send out the email, then the students are probably not going to get it. So I was wondering why none of my students were giving me feedback on the badges, and it's just because they didn't know that they got them. So, a workaround would be to like kind of screenshot it and then email it to them from your own account.
Oh, that's really good feedback there. And of course, by GAF, Sarah is talking about Google Ask for Education. And, I wonder, Sarah, if they go in, if before you issue badges, you take them all into the computer lab and have them sign up for an account using their GAF email address, if that might be a way to help those emails get through or not. Would be curious to see.
Yeah, definitely. That would be a great step. Maybe we'll try that next.
Well, to everybody who joined us live and anybody who watches this on YouTube, just thank you so much for taking the time. As always, we love this Badge Chat community. We're closing in now on our 1-year anniversary, and I know when we started this, we had no idea where it was going to go, how it was going to grow, and it's been just, amazing and humbling for me to see, just going from a handful of us week one to occasionally us having dozens of people across multiple continents, just engaging around this shared passion we have about something that we think can really change the world. So thank you, everybody who joined us this week and every week to chat. Thank you especially to our workers who are in the background, reading with us, favoriting things, retweeting, and clicking on links. And whenever you're ready, we'll be happy to see you jump in and sharing in the chats as well. And I think next week we'll be back to our normal Twitter hashtag BadgeChatK12. Until the next time, please do reach out to me or Sarah or one of the other moderators if you want to be on the next Hangout to screenshot and screen share with us some of what you're doing to change the world with your teachers and students in your school district. Thank you, Dan from Red Critter, for joining us and helping to co-moderate. Really appreciate it. And Sarah Thomas, as always.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right. Good night, everybody.